I call this standing committee to order. I'm serving as committee chair for TEM until completion of the election of the Student Achievement and Wellbeing Standing Committee chair. We'll begin with the territorial acknowledgement, and after that, please rise for the singing of O Canada.
We would like to acknowledge
We would like to acknowledge
We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather here today
was used by the Haudenosaunee,
Anishinaabe and Neutral people.
We also acknowledge the enduring presence
and deep traditional knowledge
les lois et les philosophies traditionnelles
Of the indigenous people
with whom we share this land today.
with whom we share this land today.
with whom we share this land today. We would like to
With willing hearts we seek and rise, the true North, strong and free. From far and wide of Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God, keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
We're going to move to election of the chair of this Student Achievement and Wellbeing Standing Committee. Associate Director Gain San Vicente and Manager Rydell will act as scrutineers for the election of chair and vice chair if required. So we will begin with nominations for committee chair. Nominations are to be made verbally and no seconder is required for a nomination. A trustee cannot nominate more than one candidate. Once nominations have been closed, each candidate will be provided an opportunity to speak to their nomination should they accept it. Are there any nominations for the position of committee chair? Trustee Piakowski?
It is my pleasure to nominate Trustee Carla Johnson for the role of chair.
Trustee Piakowski has nominated Trustee Johnson. Are there any further nominations? Trustee Johnson, do you accept the nomination?
I do. Thank you very much. That's quite fascinating.
So do I have a mover and a seconder to close nominations for the position of Student Achievement and Wellbeing Standing Committee Chair? Trustee Wasim, seconded by Trustee Piakowski, all in favor? And that is carried. Please bring your name tag, Chair Johnson.
Thank you, Chair Radlin, for stepping in as Pro Tem Chair. Much appreciation for the support, and I'm honored to be here sitting as Chair today. Next up is nominations for Vice Chair. It is time for nominations for the Student Achievement and Wellbeing Standing Committee Vice Chair. Nominations are to be made verbally, and no seconder is required for a nomination. The trustee cannot nominate more than one candidate. Once nominations have been closed, each candidate will be provided an opportunity to speak to their nomination should they accept it. Are there any nominations for the position of Committee Vice Chair? Trustee Radlin.
I nominate trustee Wasil.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for Vice Chair? Trustee Wasim, do you accept the position of Vice Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, then we close the nominations and we proceed into our meeting for the evening. Thank you. Do I have a mover and a seconder to close the nominations for the position of Student Achievement and Wellbeing Standing Committee Vice Chair? Trustee Radlin, Trustee Piatkowski, all in favor? That passes. Thank you. Trustee Wasim has been acclaimed as Student Achievement and Wellbeing Standing Committee Vice Chair. All right, we're moving to approval of the agenda. Would someone like to move approval of the agenda with the addition of a delegation from Jennifer Adams on the reconsideration of the school resource officer motion? Trustee Wasim. Second. Trustee Radlin. All in favor of the approval of the agenda with the addition? Thank you. Any opposed? And that is carried. The agenda is approved. Do we have any announcements? And I want to clarify, please note that celebrating board activities should be shared at the monthly board meeting. But any other announcements that pertain to this evening? Next, do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest? Next, we followed up by a staff. Yes, we do. Thank you. Thank you. Moving to our delegation. Our delegate, would our delegate please take the stand? And before you begin, I would like to take a moment and read our procedure. Take your time. I'm so sorry. That's okay. Thank you. Jennifer Adams is here to delegate. And before you proceed, Ms. Adams, I'm going to be reading you our delegation procedure. It's a lengthy one, so you have a little bit of time here to get it. I believe that would be perfectly fine. Yes, those are great for chairs. Make sure it's locked. Yes. I'd like to read our procedures. Thank you. Thank you. In accordance with the board's bylaws, delegations have up to 5 minutes to address the board. Exceptions to this rule are permitted only through a vote taken and supported by a majority of the trustees. Delegates are expected to refrain from use of abusive or derogatory language at all times, and the chair may expel or exclude from any meeting any person who engaged in this or any other form of improper conduct. Discourteous language, reference to personalities or statements contravening the Human Rights Code or the Charter of Rights and Freedoms will not be tolerated. Courtesy and respect for others must be displayed at all times. Delegations may not deviate from their script. When it is time for your presentation at the meeting, I will announce your name and ask you to begin. At the beginning of your presentation, the timer will be set for 5 minutes. When 4 minutes have passed, I will advise you that you have 1 minute remaining to bring your presentation to close. Following each presentation, trustees will have an opportunity to ask questions for clarification. Ask only questions for clarification relating to your remarks. They are not permitted to discuss or debate the issue at that time. If the item you are addressing is listed on the agenda, then trustees will discuss the matter at the appropriate time. If your issue is not listed on the agenda, then trustees may opt to refer it to staff for follow-up, request that it be included in a future meeting agenda, or add the item to the meeting agenda, which requires a 2/3 vote of the trustees present. At the discretion of the chair, the director may request an opportunity for staff to provide clarity to a delegation in order to assist trustees in understanding the matter. In-person delegations are welcome to stay for the entire meeting, but are not obligated to do so and may withdraw at any time during the meeting. And the final comment is about virtual, but we do not have virtual. Ms. Adams is here in person. And before you begin, I do want to make a point of welcoming Associate Director James San Vicente. Thank you for joining us tonight and stepping into Trustee Director Miller's seat. Thank you very much. Looking forward to working with you. All right, Ms. Adams, the floor is yours.
Is this all right? Am I close enough?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good evening and assalamu alaikum. I'm here as delegate to speak to the issue of school resource officers within our schools. The board voted to remove resource officers from schools, and a new initiative wishes to reconsider that decision. I'm a retired teacher. I taught at 3 schools in the board, a community organizer, and an administrator for the Downtown Kitchener Neighborhood Taxpayers Association. We have over 100 members. Today I'm speaking just for myself. I unequivocally oppose this decision being reversed. The learning environment is key, and the learning environment involves much more than the curriculum. It is important to recognize that there are many ways in which police officers can be invited to schools without being there as resource officers. Assemblies on different aspects of crime, individual teachers seeking support on specific units or career days. The overall concern for everyone needs to be the students. There is no one among us that would oppose school resource officers if it would be a positive adjunct to our schools. There is no one among us who would not wish police to be positive influences in our society. However, given student feedback the board received when they originally took this decision, given local press stories, given the emergence of the international organization Policing Free Schools, which held a rally today in Cambridge, we all have to face the reality that whatever the reasons, police do not currently have a positive image that would enhance the learning environment. Very clear perceptions were conveyed to the board and the international organization of which I am a member, Policing Free Schools, that the presence of school resource officers was not a positive thing to many students. We have to have a positive learning environment. If we're going to be successful delivering curriculum and co-curricular activities, sadly, that is not how many students see a police presence in the school. The role, I think this is where I believe. I thought somebody was going, let me just leave that right up. I was not clear as a teacher what the role of police resource officers was defined as within the school, nor the scope, and frankly, far too many students report that they feel being surveyed. I cannot tell you how much I wish that were not true. I cannot tell you how much I wish everybody, particularly in felt if they had a problem or needed support, they would feel comfortable bringing to a resource officer. Sadly, that's just not the case. Additionally, teachers are obliged by law, if they suspect a student is at risk of self-harm or abuse or harming others to report it. We need to have confidence in our teachers and support the bond that is sacred between teacher and student. Without trust and without a good and positive relationship, teachers cannot teach well. I've gone to great lengths when dealing with a pre-inspector at Central Division, of whom I cannot speak highly enough, to ensure she was highlighted in the press in our community. As the famous Robert Peel said, police are the community. And in a stable, homogeneous community, we all would want that. We live in very different communities. And while we may work towards a positive relationship with police, something I would encourage this board and individual teachers to do, we cannot pretend and ignore the facts. Force a situation on students and teachers that is unwelcome and not a direction a board or this taxpayer wants to proceed. Rather, to encourage and develop an honest and goodwill is surely the most intelligent route to go. This is a political situation. Politics affects curriculum. However, curriculum documents very clearly state that even though it is new curriculum document, it does not cancel out previous decisions. That is wise. It is wise to respect students, all students. School police resource officers, school resource officers, whether we like it or not, create division. And we desperately need unity. We desperately need working together. And I would strongly encourage the board to respect the feelings that have been expressed by many students, that their comfort level in the school with their police resource officer is not what we hope. It's not what we all would hope. Students are our base. They are our product. Any organization outputs is totally dependent on their inputs. This board and policing free schools have had the input. The school resource officers, sadly, are not welcome and positive, sight for all. Let us try and work together to enhance the comfort and respect of students' feelings.
1 minute remaining.
I'm sorry?
1 minute remaining.
Oh, okay, thank you. I encourage all board members to reject the proposal that school resource officers be invited back and into schools and seek out positive and incremental ways to enhance young people's relationship with police. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Go and sit down.
Well, you can stay right there, actually, if you don't mind. Trustees, any questions of clarification? Trustee Watson.
Through you to the delegate. You mentioned as you were speaking that according to the feedback that was gathered, are you aware of any feedback?
I'm very aware of what the board caught that led them to this decision, and I am very aware of all the feedback policing for schools has. And the number of
Can
organizations.
you tell me what feedback there was?
From
That's
the
the second
board?
question.
Oh, students reported they felt surveyed. They felt that police were
All the
watching. I'm sorry?
So through
Trustee
you,
Watson, you actually asked, that's your third question. So
Yeah.
you may continue with your second question idea, but not the third one at
okay,
this point.
so through you, I guess like, I'm gonna make my question a little bit clearer. You said that there was feedback. And I just, if you could, you seem to know what was going on, so could you give me the feedback that was, that the board received? From what groups, cause.
Did you not get them?
No.
Oh, students reported, particularly students of color, that they felt surveyed by police, that the presence there was too, it was awkward for them. They didn't feel comfortable. And students must feel comfortable. They must feel safe. And I mean, who among us doesn't want people to feel safe around police? Of course we do. But that's not the truth.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Trustee Wasim?
Just, thank you. Thank you. Through you to the delegate. Could you just clarify for how long were you a teacher within the school board?
I'm terribly sorry, I didn't hear what you were saying.
How long were you a teacher within the school board?
I taught in 3 schools, 34 years. Oh, God.
Thank you. Any follow-up?
No.
Any further questions or clarification from trustees? Then I thank you very much, Ms. Adams. I appreciate your time and giving us a presentation today. Thank you. You may
You're
take a
very
seat.
welcome, and Ms. Rebecca, thank you so much for your help and assistance. Skip one, let us go.
You are free to leave, absolutely. Someone want to give a hand?
We can help.
Thank you very much. I don't know when I practice with folks, you know. Oh.
All right, thank you. We're going to continue along. We have a presentation now, staff follow-up regarding our Gifted Learners Program update from Superintendent Albrecht.
So thank you. I want to welcome Superintendent Albrecht, and she will share a gifted update. While you will hear more, we're really proud in Waterloo of our approach to instruction. From a space of universal design for learning, from DI, tiered instruction, we really try to cultivate inclusive spaces where all students' needs can be met through instruction. So Jody will share a little bit more with you around where our gifted program is located and about some research she engaged in around a screener. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, is this working? Is it working?
No, I think we're just using this.
So I'm gonna, okay. Thank you, and through the chair to the trustees, I am pleased this evening to provide an update to you around the location of the grade 5-6 enrichment class, as well as an update around our exploration of the screener. And go ahead, slide. You can actually skip one more. So taking a look at the location, when our grade 5-6 class has moved to Brigadoon, and when we are planning for any congregated class placement, there are a few initial considerations. First off, available space within schools that's appropriate to meet the needs of the learners in the class. And part of that, we also consider future enrollment when we're thinking about available space, because we want to minimize transitions for students and staff and programs. So we look at the space being available for the long term. In the case of the enrichment class, because of the fact that we draw students from across the board, we want the location to be as central as possible. And we always want to keep transportation to a minimum. Transportation is provided to students, but we recognize drawing sort of from the edges of the boards, we want a central location. And as we work through with planning on the available spaces, Brigadoon was the single location that met the requirement of available space currently and in future, and met the requirement of being centrally located. Oh, I'm sorry, I have one additional point there. We have added a component within the referral process of a parent questionnaire, and part of that includes awareness of the need to travel to another location. That's always been part of conversations, but that is now embedded in the process with parents. All right, you can actually go on to the next one. So we'll talk, I'm going to back it up a tiny bit and just review a couple things that we talked about last year when we talked about the gifted program. And when we think about special education, we always use our student support process when we talk about meeting the needs of learners with special education needs. I'm going to back it up a tiny bit and say before we would ever engage in the student support process in all classrooms, we expect teachers are using a tiered approach to instruction, which is foundational to supporting all of our learners. At the tier 1 level, this means high quality, engaging, evidence-based practices using the principles of universal design for learning and differentiated instruction as required. These are key components to creating inclusive spaces for all of our students. Student voice and choice are also important components of all classrooms. Universal design for learning briefly is looking at how do we design from the very beginning for all of the learners in our class. And then for some of the areas where we can't meeting the needs of students through UDL, we differentiate instruction for those individual students as needed. Having said that, great instruction is happening in classrooms. Teachers are working to meet the needs of all of their students, and they may find that they're having difficulty meeting the needs of students in front of them. And it would be for all students, but in this case, I'm going to focus on students who may need opportunities for enrichment. So again, those should be offered all across the curriculum through a variety of activities, learning through inquiry and multiple entry and exit points. But having said that, if teachers are finding they're still having some difficulty, they at the very at the yellow level, we call that the classroom team level. They're identifying what that concern is. They're going to have some conversations, maybe with the student themselves, with the parent, and maybe with last year's teacher and the cert to say, what else can I do? What else can I put in place to meet the needs of this student? They would put that in place and continue to work through the process. The next level is the student, the in-school support team. We talked about that previously, where the school comes together. You'll have your spec ed teacher, your principal, some other members of the school community, again, to access more information on what are some supports that we can put in place. And then MDIC is our final level. So a teacher may be engaging with that school level, ISST, and saying, what are some possible next steps? And so they may look at some of the resources that are available through the enrichment team. We shared some of these last year, the newsletter, the blog, the drop-in sessions, just for some extra opportunities that they can look to provide to students. And it may be determined after the implementation of some things that a referral would be an important next step. So if we go to the next screen, this is where referrals happen to additional supports. And so we've got tier 1 there, which is the itinerant gifted teachers who can provide supports. They're going to support the educator in curriculum extensions, again, differentiated instruction, inquiry projects, for instance, and maybe some opportunities for small groups if that is appropriate. Having implemented those tier 1 strategies through itinerant support, there may be a need to move to tier 2, which is our area class, and that's our 1 day a week program, again, for students who have unique intellectual, creative, social, and emotional needs that are difficult to meet in the regular classroom. The focus is on the development of skills and techniques that teach the process of thinking. It allows them to work with like-minded peers who come together and spark each other's thinking. And the area class teacher always works in partnership with the classroom teacher, so that some of those learning opportunities can be extended back in the classroom. And then there could be a subsequent move to tier 3, which is our full-time congregated class. And again, for students whose needs cannot be met in the regular classroom or the area class, they have a demonstrated need to work with like-minded peers. And again, project-based learning and curriculum extensions would be offered in those sites. Part of our conversation last year also was we talked about our referral process and the components of the information that goes forward in the referral, students IEP, available assessments, teachers, student surveys, and the gifted characteristics rating scales. And part of our conversation, which we committed to, you can go to the next slide, was to come back with an update around some further exploration of screeners. And so I'm going to share some of those highlights with you here today. So we did reach out to other boards to gain a little bit of understanding about their gifted programming and their referral processes. And there are boards who don't provide congregated gifted programming. And of those who do, they're either using a screener or a gifted rating scales as a component of their referral process. So. Across the boards that we heard from, there were 3 different screeners that were identified. And while there was a bit of a range of grades between 2 and 5, the majority of them were delivered in grades 3 and 4. And again, the screener is one component of the process. So in our conversations with other boards, we did learn about some of the challenges with the screeners. So identified challenges with the screener is bias within the screener. So language could be a barrier. So a test might use certain vocabulary, language references to topics and experiences that might be more familiar to a certain demographic. And the language could be coming through in the questions that are posed, test directions, and categories for classifying their responses. Another factor that can play into the bias is around previous learning opportunities. So accumulation of previous learning opportunities and knowledge built through those and built through life experience in education can lead to bias rather than general aptitude. And then a third component was around other special education. So maybe twice exceptional students, for instance, a student who might also have a learning disability. Next slide. So we had boards had identified and other research around bias. And another thing that came up in conversation with other boards is an increase in false positives. And that is rooted in basically there are lots of tutoring supports now available to help students practice for the screeners that are well known, as well as access to practice tests online that are publicly available. So taking a look at the combination of bias within some screeners and the availability of those additional supports leading to false positives, we did some further exploration and learned about a newer screener that is out of the US that strives to be more equitable. And the ways in which they've identified increasing that equity piece is the instructions themselves are presented to the students using animated videos, which eliminates the need for comprehension of verbal directions. The verbal, nonverbal, and quantitative tests measure thinking with minimal influence of prior knowledge and can be solved regardless of a student's language background. And to eliminate the role of verbal expression in the tests, students respond using a multiple choice format, and this ensures that the answers themselves reflect thinking ability rather than language skills. Slide. Again, as we learned a little bit more about this screener, we met with the creator of the screener to better understand what, how those 3 things are achieved. We had the opportunity to actually have a little bit of a demonstration to make it make sense in our minds. And we also engaged in some initial questions that would be important because it is out of the US. So thinking about privacy and security, it is a digital tests that students would engage in. So really thinking about the privacy and security needs related to that, where the data would be stored, and then the norms that are used are US norms. And so really trying to understand then how we would use the norming that is US norms that's different than our current context. And I would invite you to go to the next slide. So again, through that conversation, thinking about us being in a Canadian setting and the norms, we learned that there is a board in Ontario who's using it. And there's one that is engaging in a pilot, and one more is doing a little bit of inquiry. And so we're just reaching out to connect with those boards to understand the benefits, some of the challenges, what have they learned for implementation, And one of those key components then is around the norms being US. The company did provide us with a little bit of information around using local norms, but again, that would be important conversation to engage in with the board who is currently using it, and some of our psychology department would be key in understanding that work. So as far as next steps go, as we continue to engage in learning around this newer screener, we will continue. We always provide ongoing professional development for our special education resource teachers. So ensuring again, the review of UDL and DI, those are always foundational pieces of all of our conversations, but really ensuring that we think about our gifted learners in connection to those. Reviewing the characteristics of giftedness and ensuring that we're thinking about how that might present in students who come from diverse backgrounds. And then just a review with certs around what are those tiered supports, resources available to all staff, and supported students who may be gifted. Next slide. So for our referral process for this year, we're going to, again, we'll continue to offer the opportunities that are in place through the student support process, the tier 1, 2, and 3 supports. And we're going to continue with our current process for referrals to enrichment while we're learning more about this other screener. So our current process, as shared previously, looking at that body of evidence, including the characteristics of giftedness, student and teacher questionnaires, available assessment data, student IEP. And then one additional component we are adding this year is a parent questionnaire to learn a little bit from their perspective about their student. And with that, I will.
Thank you very much. Trustees, any question? I did not see which order your hands went up, so I'm going to go with trustee Wasim, followed by trustee Watson, followed by trustee Radlin.
Thank you for your presentation. Through the chair, just curious, do you have any numbers on which schools have utilized the referral process in previous years?
For, I guess, the across all of the tiers, that we would be able to pull that data. One of the challenges we have just moved to a new student information system for special education. So we don't have fulsome data accessible at this time. That could be something we could look into, but we literally just switched platforms in September. So that could be something we could explore and see what we can pull in relation to that.
I'm just curious about that. When you were walking through the accessibility of the screener, just trying to see how it compares to like which schools historically use it more often, which schools might be underutilizing this resource for their students. So just curious.
Sorry, to just ask the other thing, are you asking about schools who are using the screener or the process?
I guess either, I know the screener is new from what you're discussing, but the process itself of identifying students who might fit into the gifted category and then, referring them forward. So that process itself.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Watson.
Thank you. Through you to staff. So one of the concerns of parents have shared with me is the screening process, because largely we depended on the teacher to identify, which would mean that some students are going to fall through the cracks and not be identified, and that was the really big concern. So it really is interesting to hear about this new screener, and I think it's something worth exploring and just monitoring. And I'm wondering, will all students go through like grade 3 level? Is this for all students or just students identified by
So yes, we are going to continue to look at the screener, and the purpose of the screener, not all boards do it for all students, but that would be the approach, that would be done for all students rather than only after a teacher nomination. Boards do different things. Some screen all students and some only screen those students who have been put forward. But we would look at all students within a grid.
And through you, yes, so I just wanted to say, this was a lot of information, it was really important. And I just wanna make sure that, going forward, that with this new screener, it sounds great. Do we have a time frame of their pilot? And like, I know, obviously you'll have like close connection, but what's the time frame with that screener?
There would be, so we're just engaging in further conversations with the board, the one board who is looking, they're in the screening process right now. So learning from them, and then the board who is engaging with it. So we're going to have to engage in learning through those processes. So it's difficult at this point in time to say when this could be put in place.
Thank you, trustee Radlin.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you, Superintendent Albrecht, for that update. I just have a question about Tier 1 and universal design for learning. The challenge with any kind of professional development is always that teachers change grades, teachers change schools. And so I noted that you said that the certs get, professional development in UDL and so on. And my question is, how confident are you that classroom teachers have the skill to recognize giftedness? So what is the process of ensuring that the knowledge that the certs, because I know some schools have 700 kids, you have 2 or 3 certs. So I guess, how confident are you in that Tier 1 approach with the application of universal design for learning? How are you? I know you're working on it always, but how confident are you in the process for ensuring that these classroom teachers have the knowledge?
Through the chair to respond to the trustees' questions. I will clarify a couple things. So one is universal design for learning and differentiated instruction. These are just foundational expected practices in every single classroom. And at the beginning of the year, teachers look at the learners in front of them, and we talk about, we often talk about planning for the edges, right? So thinking of the breadth of the students in your class, how am I planning for all of those students? And so that there are strategies in place so that a student who may need something gets it, but it's actually available to all students. So that's the concept of UDL. And that's just foundational across all classroom practices. It's reinforced through PD, whether it's literacy, mathematics, etc. So that's the UDL piece. And then of course there is the need to differentiate for students. And that would be those additional. This work is meeting the needs of the vast majority, but this student needs a little something different. So that is just an expected practice that is in place across the system. Thinking specifically, I'm going to respond about gifted programming, for instance, and the fact that we provide certs, PD, but then what is that stretching out to classroom teachers? That's the beauty of the student support process. Because when a teacher is having difficulty meeting the needs of the students in their class, they access that process. So at the classroom level, they may, again, be engaging with the family, the student, the CERT, last year's teacher. We've got that next level at the ISST level where they're going to identify, here are the things I'm doing. I'm still having some trouble meeting the needs of so-and-so. Maybe they seem disengaged. I'm trying lots of things. And then because the CERT has been provided that learning and understanding through the PD, they might say, hey, I'm wondering that. So that's the beauty of the student support process and the professional development effort to CERTs.
And you're confident it's working?
Pardon me?
And you're confident it's working?
I'm going to be.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but through the chair. I am not trying to put you on the spot, but
slip through.
There is often, and you know, when you have one teacher in a classroom with many needs, I don't have to tell you that it's challenging. So I guess my question is kind of aimed in terms of, do we have supports for teachers in terms of helping them to recognize students who are gifted learners? There was a time when if a child, you know, was challenging in terms of behavior, we assumed they were gifted, which was not always the case. So are we able, whether it be in terms of itinerant support or wherever, to give, because we have some very large elementary schools and they are not all created equal, so.
To the chair to answer the trustee's question, I think the one thing I would also go back to is the practices that are in place in classrooms across all subjects. So when we think about learning through inquiry, you know, students, lots of classrooms have, you know, time in their week dedicated to passion projects. So that's where students get to pick a topic of their choice, they delve into it, and they're going to make cross-curricular connections, but again, driven by their interests. And so these are some of the things that happen through the congregative programming, but many teachers put these in place. We think about, you know, within a math classroom, we talk about multiple entry points and multiple exit points for problems. So it's open enough that students can enter where they are, but then lots of exit points. So those are strategies that are inherently built in to all of those practices within classrooms that allow. So if I think about that gifted student, because of the inquiry projects I'm engaging in, the inquiry learning I'm engaging in, those tasks that are being provided to me, I can extend my learning very naturally through the availability of those strategies.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Trustee Piatkowski.
Yes, through you, a very brief question. Could trustees, not just trustees on the committee, but all trustees get a copy of the slide deck?
For sure.
Thank you. Student trustee Trivedi.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to clarify whether the screening process, whether the screening process or the gifted programming is occurring primarily at Brigadoon, or is it just under the system?
Okay, thank you, and through the chair to respond to the trustee's question. So the 5-6 program is located at Brigadoon. The identification, like when we think of the student support process and strategies being put in place, that happens at all schools.
Thank you, student trustee Todd.
Through you, Chair, thank you for your presentation. I really liked it, and I like the idea for a new screening process. My question is, as mentioned before, teachers deal with many different students, and some people tend to fall through the cracks. Is your plan to try and get every student in grade 3 and 4 take the assessment, like something like EQA or something, or will it still be teachers picking students they want taking the assessment?
Through the chair to answer the trustee's question, as we continue to look at the screener, it would be implemented across. A screening process would be available across a grade.
And just follow up. So are parents allowed to request that their child take the assessment if they haven't gotten to take it yet?
If a parent had some concerns around whether or not their students' needs are being met in the classroom, they would be able to reach out to the teacher at any time, identify my son's coming home saying he's bored, my daughter's coming home saying she would like some more extensions. And so that parent can reach out to the teacher and look to have those things put in place, even in the absence of a screener. Those things can be put in place as extensions and opportunities through our student support process.
Thank you. Now, are there any further questions from the committee? Well, you've all been had a chance, because I'd like to give a chance to trustee Ramsey He's not on the committee, but I'd like to give him a chance. He had raised his hands earlier to ask a question.
I didn't.
Well, you're fine. Oh, okay. All right. Then we're going second round. Anyone, actually, though, who hasn't asked a question? So trustee Radlin and then trustee Watson.
Thank you. Through the chair, a short question. You have a new platform for special ed, you said, a new data collection
Yes.
system. So what data will we be able to, I'm assuming it's going to be able to give us data that we were not able to get before? Is that the reason for the change or?
Actually, through the chair to respond to the trustee's question, the platform that we were using previously is no longer the platform that we were engaging with previously, they were moving to a new platform. I'm gonna try to make this as simple as possible. We went through an RFP process and we had to move to a new company through the RFP process to procurement. So there was a change being made. That current version was no longer being supported. And as we were moving forward, we needed to go through the procurement process, which had us move to a new company.
And trustee Watson?
Through you, Scott. So I'm really happy about the central location, and I'm sure parents are happy about that too. And I'm wondering, you mentioned the survey, that's something new. So could you just let us, like, what are some, it's a brief survey, but what are the types of questions we'll be asking parents on the survey?
Oh, you know what, I don't have it right in front of me, but really sort of some of the areas of interest to their child. You know what, I don't have it, I'm not sure if I have it accessible here. Really, it's just about getting insight from the parent around their students. And that would be a part of that referral process. So we can gain insight, we hear from the teacher, we hear from the student themselves, but we do want to hear from parents again, formally through this process.
Wonderful, thank you.
Trustee Weston.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I may have missed this earlier and I apologize. So you're looking at the screener and you're still doing some research. Is there a timeline for when you'll make a decision on proceeding?
We are very early still in the process in reaching out to the board that has already engaged in this. So we don't have a timeline established at this point. There are multiple pieces that we would still have to go through, including procurement, lots of different things. So it would be a little ways off.
Thank you. Any further questions?
All right, quick follow-up.
Absolutely.
So do you have a timeline on when you may make a decision on whether you'll move forward or not with this new screen? And I'm not going to hold you to a specific date. Are you looking at this particular year into next year?
I think we would be having to look into next year as we gather data around, you know, from the other boards, what that has looked like. And really only one so far has implemented it, but what are they seeing around the results, the positives, the challenges, and then again, we would be working through procurement processes, IT processes, because we would have to have it added to devices, privacy security pieces, would be layered into that also. So it would be a little ways down the road. It would be into next year.
All right, any further questions from the committee or other trustees? Okay. I personally want to thank you for all of your work, Superintendent Albrecht, and speaking on a personal note as a parent of a child who is gifted in ADHD. The challenges of a screener are very real, and I appreciate all the time and effort you put into looking at all the options and are so carefully working through them very thoughtfully. Thank you so much. All right, follow next with another, we have our staff report on school police protocol update. Associate Director Gaines Sanderson.
Yes, I'm just wanting to welcome Superintendent Hume, and he will share the updated school and police protocol, which we will be using alongside Waterloo Catholic School Board, as well as some other schools. This protocol, as we reviewed it, upholds the commitment to the Ontario human rights, as well as to school safety, and it's in It's in the spirit of collaboration with the police and other public sectors. I think you'll find them.
Thanks. So good evening, Madam Chair and trustees. Through the chair to the trustees, I'm here to share the police protocol as Associate Director Gaines mentioned. In thinking about this, I've chosen, it's obviously it's a significant document, so in terms of length and topics, so what I chose was some quotes from it that I think reflect the thinking and philosophy that guide creation and implementation of it. So we can just hit to the next slide. Oh, yeah, it's got a, I should have taken those off. Go ahead. So this is from the statement of principles that's on page 5 of the school police protocol. And I'll read it here for you so you can enjoy my voice. We also acknowledge that there are some historical and systemic barriers that have prevented some groups from accessing equal opportunities and justice, and we strive to eliminate these barriers through our policies, practices, and actions. So I can read the bottom. We respect the dignity and human rights of every person we serve and protect, and we foster a culture of trust, accountability, and collaboration within our organization and with our community partners. We believe that equity is not only a moral obligation, it is also a key factor for enhancing public safety and community well-being. If you go to the next slide, in that same spirit, these are the first three guiding principles found on the same page. So number 1, every human being has inherent value and their self-esteem, personal dignity, and individual rights must be respected. Number 2, respect and civility must be the standard in every school within the region. And number 3, fundamental rights pertaining to ancestry, culture, ethnicity, gender identity, language, physical ability, intellectual ability, race, religion, sex, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, and other prohibited grounds of discrimination under the Ontario Human Rights Code among students, teachers, and staff must be protected and respected at all times by all within the community. So you're getting a sense for the real and important thinking that has gone into guiding this work. I'll give you one last example, and you can have them all slide in. So this speaks to the purpose, which you can find on page 7, and there are more, but I just chose the first 3 to give you a sense. Number 1, assist all the partners in providing for the greater safety and protection of students, teachers, staff, and volunteers in the school. Number 2, encourage constructive, ongoing, adaptive, and responsive partnership between police and the school community in areas such as violence prevention. And number 3, reinforce the importance of a coordinated and multifaceted approach on the part of the schools and the police in their interactions with parents, legal guardians, and the community in an effort to promote the well-being of students. And lastly, the last slide I'll share with you, just so you are aware, there is a significant amount of legislation that was referenced in putting this policy together. I won't read this one, but just wanted to make sure you saw the breadth of it. And so with that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you. Any questions? Superintendent Trustee.
Through you to Superintendent Hume, thank you for the presentation, and I trust that we'll be able to get the slide deck as well. The fact that we're receiving this information in public session suggests that the school police protocol is a publicly accessible document. Have we considered posting it on our website for so that the public is aware of that we have an ongoing relationship with the Waterloo Regional Police Service and what the terms of that are?
Associate Director Aimson and Santi would like to answer that.
Yes, it will be posted on the public website.
Excellent.
We just wanted to ensure that all of you were aware of it, and we will send it to you in advance of it going on the website so that you could take a closer.
All right, no follow-up then.
Trustee Watson.
Thank you. So through you to staff, so this article is from June 25. It says a new bill by the Ontario government will force some school boards to put police officers in schools, and it has revived a debate. But it says the proposed legislation would require school boards to implement a school resource officer SRO program, which places officers in elementary and high schools. So, where, and again, through you to staff, so have we heard anything on that? You know, is that when that bill is coming forward, or?
Through the chair to the trustee, I think you're referring to Bill 33.
Okay.
And currently my understanding is that it has not yet passed.
So.
Follow up?
Through you to staff. So this is the bill for next week. Yeah. Giving the province more power. And so, I'm wondering, so we have no information on that, and it won't be until that bill passes where we may be required to have student resource officers.
Yeah, through the chair to the trustee, if that's the case, then yeah, we would have to follow that legislation.
Any other questions? Trustee Ramsey?
Thank you. You need to speak or no? No, give it. Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Superintendent Hume. I'm just thinking about asking out loud here is that the protocol that you just gave us a brief overview of, is it fair to characterize it as a protocol that manages the relationship in terms of the police reacting to situations like calls for service? Is that what it covers?
Yeah, through the chair to the trustee, yes, there's much of the protocol is managerial in nature. It just kind of outlines, you know, in what ways exactly as you described, we will be interacting with police in exigent circumstances or not.
It's just a follow up. Thank you. Appreciate the response. So it is fair then to suggest that I just don't want anyone to get the impression that the protocol is a replacement for the SRO program that was cancelled. So is it fair to say that it has nothing to do with the cancellation of the SRO program, or whether we're doing that?
Yeah, through the chair to the trustee, it is separate. Yeah, to answer your question, is separate from the SRO program. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, so for you then to.
You had 2 questions
So
so far.
you're
We're
gonna-
going to continue on with Trustee Radlin's next.
Okay.
Thank you, Superintendent Hume, for that report. And just for my knowledge, you say this protocol is also used by the Catholic Board. And did I hear other schools as well? So is this private schools?
Yeah, the private schools.
So it's a regional protocol, I guess. Is this a regional protocol?
Yeah, through the chair to the trustee, correct. It is signed by 1, 2, 3, 4.
And has this always been the case, or is it the first step?
Through the chair to the trustee, I don't recall the original protocol who signed it.
Okay, thank you.
I wasn't here.
All right, thank you. And Trustee Watson again?
I'm good.
You're fine? Okay, anyone else? I figured I should. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Superintendent Hume. And thank you very much for updating that important information, quite timely. Thank you. Next up, we have, oh, look at that. Next up, we have a report on Folio 01, suspension expulsion report from May 2025. It's important to note that as we're moving on to reports here, this suspension expulsion report for May is provided for information. Trustees, oh, sorry, that's at the end of the presentation. Oh, I see. Thank you. We're just looking at it. Trustees, are there any questions about this report? Trustee Watson, who's with you?
So just to be clear, we're talking about the first report.
Yes,
Through you to staff, so on page 1 of 2 under violent incidents, we can see that the violent incidences are going up. Do we have any idea, looking at this information, what is propelling the violent incidents? Like, do we have any clear indication of which category and what's happening there?
Yeah, through the chair to the trustee, I don't know all of it, but some of it is attached to a change in protocol that we've made so that administrators can better see which incidents they need to be reporting on, and then linking the reporting tool more easily so that they can report on it, and so that we can get accurate data. So both at the training that we do in August and system memos we've sent out, and staff and administrators have better understanding of when to report. So I think some of it has to do with awareness. I think much of it has to do with awareness on the part of staff about when to report. So we're getting probably better data now.
So through you, staff, so what you're saying is we were probably under-reporting for a number of years.
Yeah, we through the chair to the trustee, that may have been the case. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? The other trustees? Second round. Great. Thank you very much. And report folio 03 suspension and expulsions report of June 2025. Again, Superintendent Hume. This report is for the information of the committee and will be noted as such in the minutes. It is provided, the suspension and expulsion report for June is also provided for information. Are there any questions? Trustee Ratliff.
Thank you. Through the chair to Superintendent. The number of violent incidents has gone up, but other things have gone down. So if you look at suspensions and expulsions, can you just explain? So because violent incidents can lead to suspension or expulsions. So I guess my clarification is how come one is going down and one is going. I know. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, through the chair to the trustee, that makes sense. If we look at the just trying to pull up the numbers. I believe the number, I don't have it right in front of me because I'm moving between documents. So here we go. The June document has violent incidences at 147. And when you look at the number of suspensions, and 147, if you look at the number of suspensions, we're looking at 1,265. So if there's 1,265 suspensions, some of them are going to be violent incidences, and that's 147. Is that answering the question?
Thank you, through the chair. So basically then violence incidents are a small percentage of this other that we are seeing.
Yeah, through the chair to the trustee. Yeah, I think that's the case. One of the challenges we've also managed is just the definition of violent incidences. So helping staff know which events they're to report on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Moving on. Again, this report suspension and expulsion report for June 2025 is provided for the information of the committee and will be noted as such in the minutes. Moving on to folio 05, Superintendent Hume, do you have any comments regarding the 2024-25 annual suspension report?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Through the chair to the trustees, as I share the 2024-25 school year suspension and expulsion report. It begins on folio 5, which you have in front of you. I have some opening remarks and then I'm happy to take any questions. I took a moment to compare 2022, 23, 23, 24, and 24, 25. So my comment will reflect that. So over those 3 years, suspensions decreased each of those years. So every single year they were lower and lower, as long with the percentage of students. So it wasn't just a result of a shrinking enrollment, but also it was a direct result of fewer suspensions being handed out to students. I will also mention, if you look at suspensions for students from grade 7 to 10, there's also a decline. I make note of that because it's something that I'll reference in the ongoing work section of my report. The length of suspensions remained about the same for the past 3 years. So that's something that didn't change. In terms of expulsions, they were down from 23, 24. There was a slight increase in school expulsions that went up 4. But there was a more significant drop in board expulsions, which is why they dropped overall. I want to speak a little bit to our ongoing work. I know some of this may be things you've heard before, but I think it's important to mention again that we continue as a staff to try and find and pursue alternatives to out of school suspensions. We understand that the best place for students to be is at school with adults who can care for them. I know this has been discussed before. Superintendents work in collaboration with Safe Schools teams to work with administrators at schools to make sure that we are critically reflecting on what is causing the student behavior and thinking richly about mitigating factors as they're laid out in the Education Act before we make decisions. We continue to collectively shift our thinking from punitive, solely punitive to being more supportive, focusing on the learning needs of students and their ability to resolve conflicts in pro-social and restorative ways. And so I'll give you a few examples of work that is continuing. Maybe you have heard about the Active Bystander Training, or TAB, which is a program that we have implemented largely in elementary and senior elementary schools. So that's 6, 7, and 8. That's why I referenced that data at the beginning. We've had over 50 schools participate in this training, and we have another 20 who are going to be a part of this. So essentially, the active bystander is a student who is more engaged in their school community and looking for ways to make it a more belonging space and maybe get engaged when things are starting to slide. We're not asking students to break up conflicts, but essentially, could they do things to help mitigate issues that might be arising at school? So they talk during the training that teachers and students participate in. They talk about building community. They talk about identifying the needs of students who might be struggling with antisocial behavior. They talk about the harms that happen in the communities that they navigate. They talk about inhibitors to taking action. What are the things that prevent people from engaging in their community in order to make it a better place? And they also talked about the promotion of impact and the concept of moral courage. So those are kind of just to give you a flavor for what the program offers to teachers and students. And when we gathered data about the program, 100% of the teachers who were involved said that in the next 2 months, they would implement the stuff they had learned at the training. And 100% of students either agreed or strongly agreed that they would be better citizens or better bystanders when they went back to the communities that they were from. And I borrowed a little bit. There was an extensive amount of feedback that we received from students who were part of it. So I borrowed a few quotes from them because I thought their voices would be important to hear here. So 2 of them were, quote, "I think that the most important thing I learned about being an active bystander is that we should always be on the lookout for people who might need help." The second quote is, quote, "I must improve, the most important thing I've learned about being an active bystander is how powerful small actions can be. Even just speaking up or offering support can make a huge difference in someone's situation. It's not about being a hero. It's about doing something. It's about doing what you can to create a safer, more positive environment." part of those, for those who have been a part of the TAP training, there's an extended opportunity for them to participate in TREE training, so more acronyms for you. TREE stands for the Ripple Effect Education. It's rooted in the trainers are from Conrad Grebel's University of Waterloo Peace and Conflict Studies program, and they offer training to teachers who have been a part of TAP, and they part of that training allows teachers access to 1 year worth of curriculum to help staff and students in their school around peace and conflict studies. And so 40 teachers were trained in that already, and another 40 will be trained this year. And while we've had one secondary school participate in TAP training, and that was Forest Heights. They took the opportunity to train all of their student leaders and their affinity group leaders. And those affinity group leaders and student leaders then trained all of their grade 9. So they did workshops with their grade 9. So that is going to be expanded. There's another 4 secondary schools that are going to be a part of that work moving forward. To add to this, the work that's going on within our Mental Healthy Schools Action Plan, and all these resources come from the School Mental Health Ontario resources that are provided to us. The curriculum training for grade 7 and 8 phys ed teachers has been happening over the past 2 years. This helps support students who around help-seeking behavior for themselves and others. So if they're struggling with anything, what can they do, or how can we help a friend in that way? The curriculum training for all grade 10 careers teachers and guidance counselors happened last year. And so that also, the area of focus for grade 10 careers curriculum is around help-seeking behavior again, but also stress management. So again, helping students develop those skills. And the grade 6 curriculum we are waiting on, but poised to do the training for staff as soon as it is released by the ministry. And we continue to do our work around to address any overrepresentation of particular student groups in the suspension and expulsion data. And by that I mean we have half of our schools trained in dismantling anti-Black racism, and that training continues this year. Every school has an equity and Indigenous teacher lead who has access to resources and support, and is helping moving the work forward in their school communities. All admin are participating in human rights training, and that continues to happen. All admin and managers are participating in Leading for Change training, which is focused on decolonization. And every school's SLIP work is rooted in culturally responsive pedagogy. And we continue to unpack and access and use resources like the Dreams Delayed report to make sure we're guiding our work in the right way. So overall, we continue to build awareness and understanding in staff and students. Work to create kinds of belonging spaces where students feel supported. That is the conclusion of my report. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. That's a very fulsome report. Thank you. Committee members, anyone on the committee with questions? I see, write some names down here. I see Trustee Watson. And any other committee members like to ask a question? Trustee Ratlin. Anyone else at this time? All right, Trustee Watson.
Thank you, through you to staff. So I noticed under 5 or folio 9, where we look at fighting and violence, where that's the highest, fighting and violence. The second category for committing physical assault on another pending an expulsion is 42. So you had said you looked at the past 3 or 4 years. What about those numbers, specifically with fighting and violence, this being physical? Are those numbers going up?
Through the chair, to the trustee, I didn't look at those numbers. You can, I did look at them.
Okay.
I don't know how to answer that.
So,
yeah.
Through you to staff. So when you look at the total number of suspensions, you can see that, you know, a 1-day suspension, that's probably something like opposition to authority or habitual neglect, and so half of them are, you know, the one day seems to have worked, like it's just a one day, or maybe it's for vaccinations or whatever. But when we look at, all of them are important, but the fighting and violence, I think, is something, you know, as a board, we really have to keep our finger on, especially when it comes to committing these acts with one another. And I'm wondering, for the fighting and violence, do we have anything in the future or any idea of looking at the trends, looking at those numbers? Because we've gone through a lot of changes, and if those changes are good, our numbers should go down. If they're going up and we're monitoring it, where they're going up, we need to change our strategy. We need to look at ways, like, you know.
I'm gonna ask you have a follow-up question. I hear you making a lot of
Yeah,
statements. Do you have a
thanks.
follow-up question for?
Yeah, so, cause I was starting, so when we look at those numbers of the fighting and the violence, do we have a plan where we're going to start monitoring whether that's going up or down and what it's related to?
Through the chair to the trustee, just for one point of clarification, this data doesn't include immunizations.
Okay.
It's separate, but yeah, we're always looking at the data, so if we identify that violence as being a problem, then certainly we can focus our resources in that way. I don't, you know, the suspension rates have gone down, so I have to assume they've gone down across the board, but I can certainly take a moment to look at the violent incidents and the fights.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on, Trustee Radler.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I want to thank the superintendent and staff for the fact that we're looking at behavior as something that is not just spontaneous or innate, but which is often a reaction to one's environment or to the circumstances one is on. So I'm very pleased to see that we're being proactive in that. We're looking at the students we serve, we're looking at their circumstances, we are looking and we are, making sure that everybody does the leading for change with culturally relevant, responsive pedagogy. I think people often forget that, they talk about violence or fighting as a broad category, but sometimes we forget why that happens and what it is students experience. So thank you very much for that, and I'm really pleased to see that that's the direction the board has taken.
Thank you, and Trustee Piatkowski.
Actually, Superintendent Hume anticipated my question. I was going to ask for clarification because we have been previously told by Associate Director Lemon when he was in this role that suspensions for immunization were not on this report.
Thank you. And Trustee Weston.
Thank you. Through you, more of a comment. I just looked up last year's report that we received on this, and fighting violence number was 760, and this year it's 538. So I think that's a good news story, and credit to all of the training that's been happening and the all programs and the training for active bystanders. Sounds like a really great program. I love to hear that they're the student leaders are training the grade 9s, because then that becomes a culture in the secondary school. So thank you, and no question.
Awesome, thank you. Anyone else? Trustee Watson.
Thank you. Through you to staff. So I just did a quick Google search, and it says it's some sort of article, QP, Canadian Union of Public Employees. It says new data confirms alarming rise in violence in Ontario schools. And then OSB CU demands urgent action from the Ford government. And the article is basically saying, since the Ford government took over, There's been a dramatic 77% rise in violent incidents in Ontario schools since the Ford government took office. I'm confirming, so anyway, they're sort of sounding the alarm. Are we familiar with that at all, or are we looking at anything provincially?
Through the chair to the trustee.
Yeah, it was a global news report.
Yeah, I mean, that may be the case, and I'm not sure what reporting, maybe in that case, reporting, like in our case, reporting has gone up because more people are reporting as opposed to a change in behavior, but I do know, you know, I have to focus on the work that we're trying to do here at school. And it feels like it's moving in the right direction.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much, Superintendent Hume. You did a really good job sitting on the hot seat today. Yes.
Now you miss.
Yeah. All right, just a reminder that report was for the information of the committee and will be noted in the minutes as such. Moving on to folio 11, the reported student behavior quarterly report is provided for the information. I am so sorry. We are in folio 18 already. My apologies. Yes. The annual IPRC committee, yes, because we are at Trustee Albrecht here. The annual IPRC committee membership report on folio 18. Oh my gosh. Who was?
I was jumping in.
I feel so much better.
Please continue.
I did something right tonight. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, going back to folio 11. Yes, the reported student behavior quarterly report is provided for information. Trustees, are there any questions for Superintendent Albrecht? Yes, Trustee Watson. Folio 11 is just team and Zoom.
Thank you. Through you to staff. So, when we look at the status, so the recommendation, so this is the report on student achievement, well-being, the quarterly data, right? So when we look at all of these recommendations and the things that we're doing, is there anything new from last year? Is there anything that worked really well and maybe we sort of switched it out with something else? Or is it the same sort of strategies that we did last year?
Through the chair to respond to the trustee's question, just to clarify, so we're comparing this past year's, because this is April to June, to the previous year. You're asking for clarification differences. So I think one of the key pieces that we, in looking at the data and the referrals, et cetera, we did make some changes around some of the supports we put in place to referrals. So we've talked previously about behavior analysts and VMSLs. Those referrals continue to be in place. The work they do continues to be in place. But we also, over the last couple of years, have tweaked things a little bit and have created some teams. So we have some teams that go in to support referrals of complex cases that would include a VMSL, a behavior analyst, itinerant teacher, itinerant EA and CYW. And so they may not all be involved the entire time, but the combination of that work across those teams of people, really being able to meet the needs of the educator, the teacher in the classroom, the EA in the classroom, if there's a CYW involved, and the BMSL and the behavior analyst really help to identify what those programming needs are and what we are learning around the behavior of the student. And then the teacher can provide supports around programming to meet those needs of the students. So an example, maybe that I can try to make sense of this a little bit for you is, taking a look at some student behavior, being in the classroom or whatever the setting is, observing those behaviors and identifying both triggers and what we would call indicators. So part of a safety plan includes triggers. Those are the things we're going to avoid. BMSLs always provide that support, special education teachers, etc. So triggers are an important piece, but another really important piece are indicators. So we've done a lot of work around this. And so when we think about indicators, we would talk about responding at a low level. So if I have a student who's a bit dysregulated, the behavior analyst might be able to help identify what are those low level indicators. So it might be they're kind of moving in their seat, maybe they're humming. So those are low level indicators that say we're starting to see some distress. And so we're saying respond at that point, rather than at a high level indicator where maybe a student's running out of the classroom, pushing their way out. So that is some of the work that's been done really sort of across teams and a more of a comprehensive multidisciplinary approach to supporting all of the educators in understanding student behaviors and being able to respond earlier when we're thinking about sort of the distress a student might be feeling.
Thank you. Through you, just follow up. So those low level indicators, who would be the person to identify that? Because there's so much activity in the classroom. There might be an EA, like, you know, someone who knows and has a relationship with students. So who would be primarily responsible for those low level indicators to make sure that we're not going to accelerate and then have a full blown situation?
It could be classroom, through the chair of response to the person's question. It could be classroom teacher, it could be EAs. I would also say, if we go back to our earlier conversation around UDL and differentiated instruction. So things like if we have a group sitting at the carpet, you know, long time, for many, many years, it was kind of crisscross applesauce. Everybody had to sit and helping. We know that doesn't work for everyone, and that's not necessarily meeting the needs and creating an inclusive environment. So there could be CED equipment that would be recommended. CERTs are very well aware of those things, and so maybe a student has alternative seating options at that carpet. So we're not even maybe getting to that point, or maybe again, we're doing a structured literacy lesson. We have the student. We're going to differentiate. UDL would say like everybody's engaging this, but I'm going to say that this student is going to participate maybe from their seat. They're going to be at their seat. They can engage as necessary, and then maybe they would have an activity that they continue with. So all of those layers of UDL and DI are going to factor into it even prior to the indicators. But again, I'm in a circle at the carpet, and that teacher is probably going to know this also.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Superintendent Albrecht, for that thorough report and for your time reporting. I'd like to say I appreciate the emphasis on classroom staff being the first to identify, the first to intervene, and classroom staff are one of the brilliant skills that so many have is their ability to de-escalate, to identify, de-escalate quickly. They know those little people in the classroom, and they know how to step in quickly and redirect, and often to wonderful direction. And this happens multiple times every day in every classroom, and because we're dealing with young people. Yes, so thank you so much for that. All right, now we're moving on to folio 18. Now this is the annual IPRC, and I want to take note, the folio 11 was for the information of the committee and will be noted as such in the minutes. Now moving on to folio 18, the annual IPRC committee membership report. I need someone to be a mover and a seconder for this motion. Trustee Radlin and Trustee Piatkowski. Thank you. Moved by Trustee Radlin, second by Trustee Piatkowski. Trustees, are there any questions?
Yeah, I think we missed the motion before. I think the one for the.
Yeah, just for information.
That was just for information. The previous one was informational.
It says recommendation for the well-being standing committee.
Or what page are you on? What page in the
folio 11?
Yes, please.
Sorry, through the chair, the information that the report is provided for the Waterloo Region District School Board with information regarding incidents. It was actually, it should be saying for information.
Okay, so it's.
That's all, it's not an actual motion. Thanks.
Thank you. So continuing on with FOIA 18, we've had trustee Radlin moved it, trustee Piatkowski seconded it. Any questions? I see trustee Piatkowski's hand. Anyone else at this point? Trustee Piatkowski.
Just to show that I read things. The principal listed for Eastwood has retired, so we should not be appointing Josh Windsor to this committee. Is there an update on that line of the list?
Through the chair to respond to the trustee's question, thank you for noticing that. We will have to make that update. The information is provided by the end of September, so it's a little bit early, so we can go back and for sure make that update. The other thing I would note that the committee is made up of 3 people. You might notice there are some schools where there are only 2, and that's the case of small schools, where a teacher might join us. But most definitely, thanks for noticing that, and we will make that update for Eastwood.
Thank you. Any other questions? Trustee Radlin.
But I'm just wondering does that mean that the recommendation needs or not, just so we're voting on the recommend just as is?
If I
Through
may,
the chair, I'm just asking since trustee Piatkowski.
maybe we could just strike his name.
Yeah, we can, through the chair, we can go ahead and make a note that it's with striking that individual's name. I would suggest too that throughout the year, the committee structure would change as other staff members retire or change schools. And this is more just to start us off for the year. But it would certainly change throughout the school year as well.
So are we going to proceed with it, noting the change in the staff number, the removal of staff number name? Just say that as we move on. Okay. All right, any further questions? Then going to a vote, we are voting in favor or opposed to the motion on folio 18 with the noted staff member's name removed from the folio. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposition? Then that is carried. All right, now we are moving on to board reports. Okay, motion folio 23. You received a notice of motion on reconsideration of the school resource officer motion. Trustee Ramsey, would you like to speak to your notice of motion?
I'm not sure if that's the second process.
We have mover.
Through the chair, because trustee Ramsey, you are not a member of the committee, we're giving you an opportunity to introduce it prior to getting the mover and seconder, because you were not able to move it yourself.
Okay, that's. So what would you like me to do?
Through the chair, we just give, typically there's a trustee whose notice of motion comes forward, they're given an opportunity to just say something first and introduce it. If they have something to say, you don't have to say anything. You can go straight to having someone move it, second it, and have the committee start their discussion on it.
Okay, I'll just hold the line and
Okay, good to know. Thank you very much. So we're going to proceed with. Do we have someone to move the motion? Trustee Watson is moving the motion. Do we have someone to second the motion? See no hand at this time. We do not have a seconder. So at this point, the motion cannot move forward, and we will be moving on to the next agenda item.
So
at this point, we're moving on to the next agenda item.
I have a procedural question.
Can you? All right, let's proceed.
And I'm not sure if that can be dealt with here at the committee level. I guess it's more to Ms. Rydell with respect to certain informal discussions that we've had with respect to when a motion goes to committee the traditional way is that notice the motion is served at the board table, it comes to the committee. The committee has an obligation to discuss it. They can deal with it and vote it down, but it's not an option to say, well, we're not going to discuss it. But I guess that's part of the whole growing pains in terms of adjustments that we will need to make going forward.
Yes.
Through the chair, in the past, the committees were committee of the whole, which was made up of the whole board. So as you brought a motion forward, it would be seen by everyone immediately, which in this case, we have moved to smaller committees who are taking a look at items first and making recommendations to the Board of Trustees. So for this, in this case, that's why I tried to give you an opportunity just to provide a statement or two at the beginning. But without it being moved, without it having a seconder here at the committee level, it is not up for discussion at the committee. But it will be in the motion, in the minutes, that there was a motion that was not seconded, and you'd be provided an opportunity at the board meeting if you wanted to pull that folio number in the minutes as part of the consent agenda to discuss at that time.
Yeah, and I don't want to take up the committee's time. I'm not a member of the committee, and I appreciate the response. I guess what I'm getting at is that I'm going back into history with respect to the role that standing committees played at the board in terms of a motion coming to the committee. The committee can they discuss it. It's not a matter of someone needing to move it because the board is supreme. The board is sending the motion to the committee for discussion. I guess we basically in what we've approved so far, we bypassed that. And on more than one occasion, I'd asked that we go back into our archives with respect to how standing committees function. This is an affront, I believe, to the board itself, that the board could be sending, like I notice a motion is moved and seconded at the board table, and it comes to committee, and the committee say they don't want to discuss it. However, we'll have that discussion at the end of the month, because this is going to come back. I'm going to be pulling it. We're going to have a fulsome discussion, and I don't think we'll be able to avoid debate or discussion on this motion at the board table. But
Ms. Rydell is willing to respond. Just hold on her.
Thank you. Through the chair, just to clarify, when you brought a notice of motion forward, if you are serving it with support, asking for it to be added to an agenda. Agenda development selects the agenda that it most appropriately sits on, and in this case, it's related to student achievement and well-being. So it was brought here. There was no seconder for the motion, therefore it cannot be discussed here. Like I said, you do have an opportunity at the board meeting to bring it forward further, but there's no requirement for the committee without the interest of a seconder to have that discussion at this table. And I have spoken to other school boards, as I reflected in an email to trustees, to clarify how they run in those types of situations, and provided an example, and they would not have that discussion either, and they would, without a seconder, it would not move forward.
Thank you. I think that's very clear. Trustee Radlin, did you want to add anything further?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I was just going to refer to the email that Corporate Manager Rydell had sent, and I know Trustee Ramsey did have some concerns about some processes, which is why we kept the ad hoc committee. So I think this is one of the things we can note as we move forward, because this is our pilot year, and then as we review things, maybe it's something that needs to be addressed.
Yep, this is certainly learning curve tonight, even for me sitting here. So especially for me sitting here. Okay, thank you. So we're moving on to motion 20. Wait a second. Did I skip something? Okay, all right. We see the notice of motion on automated speed enforcement from Trustee Piatkowski. Trustee Piatkowski, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I will move it and then speak to it, if that's okay.
Yes.
Do you want to ask for a seconder before I speak?
I'm going to actually, according to our protocol tonight, I'm going to let you speak first, and then you'll move it afterwards. That's
okay.
Protocol we're going on tonight. I'm going to trust the process. We're gonna go with the process.
Okay. I think to be consistent with how the last motion was handled, we should make sure that it has a seconder before I speak to it. I don't want to take advantage of the opportunity to speak that trustee Ramsey didn't have on his motion.
All right, so are we okay then if we will switch it around? Okay, so let's go with the mover. Do we have a mover for this motion? We have, trustee Piatkowski is moving. Do we have a seconder for this motion? Trustee Wasim. Let's go. Trustee Piatkowski, would you like to speak to your notice of motion?
I would like to speak to the motion, and first I would like to correct something in the first clause and say opposing the end of automated speed enforcement in school zones, because our mandate is to protect children and families in school zones. So we don't necessarily have an opinion on automated speed enforcement outside of that. I'm hoping that that's friendly with my seconder.
Seconder?
Okay. So thank you. So speaking to the motion, I think that we have a very important responsibility for to be concerned about the safety and well-being of 65,000 students, more than 11,000 employees who work in our schools, most of whom work in our schools. Speeding in school zones poses a significant danger to those staff and students, as well as parents, families, and caregivers. Making people drive at lower speeds has proven to be successful in lowering the number of collisions and in improving the survivability of those collisions when they do occur. Simply put, if you're hit at 30 kilometers an hour, you have a far better chance of survival than at 60% of the 60 kilometers per hour. In fact, the survivability of those collisions at higher speeds is almost zero. Automated speed enforcement has been the most effective in a range of tools available for lowering speeds in school zones. Safer streets will make people more likely to want to walk to school, which is something that we want to encourage. The Ontario Public School Boards Association and its counterpart associations representing the other school boards in Ontario, as well as 22 Ontario mayors, including the Mayor of Cambridge and the Mayor of Waterloo, have asked the province not to ban speed enforcement. This motion asks the WRDSB to join them in making that request to the provincial government, and there's a list of people to be copied on correspondence if this motion should be approved.
Thank you. Any discussion, any questions from the trustees on the committee? Trustee Weston.
Thank you. I just want to highlight for this letter and for consideration that Sick Kids Hospital did a study, looks like July 2025, and found that automated speed enforcement cameras reduced the number of speeding vehicles by 45% in urban school zones. So this was a research specifically about school zones and how it had a positive impact. So just for the consideration of if this motion passes to include that information, and I'm happy to send the link over.
That'd be great. That's helpful. Thank you. Any further comments? Questions? Then we shall move to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. Motion is carried. All right. We are moving to question period. The floor is now open for 5 minutes of questions from committee members. Any questions? Trustee Watson?
Thank you. I don't know who I'd ask this question to, but I saw an article today or I think it was yesterday. And it was having to do with the apparel purchasing t-shirts for Muslim Heritage month. So I'm wondering, do we plan on having those, that opportunity for other faiths? So whether it's Christianity or Hindu or Sikh, or are we gonna be printing some t-shirts for all those other faiths so that they can purchase those as well?
Is anyone prepared to answer that this evening? Trustee Wasim, would you like to speak to that?
I just have a question. Sorry, what article is Trustee Watson referring to?
It's just Juno News. Juno News. It's online.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you know, if you don't have the answer, I'd be looking forward to getting the answer. Cause I've had parents ask me, will we be able to have t-shirts made for our faith as well?
Would you like to answer that?
I mean, I can share maybe as a starting point and come back with a more fulsome answer. That there are a variety of different celebrations or religions highlighted. So I know they do sell apparel for Sikh heritage, for example, for Indigenous Heritage Month, for Black Brilliance. But what we can do is have a more fulsome look at all the different apparel that is sold, because there's quite a few. It aligns with different days of significance, and it's historically happening in this board for a number of years. You can come back with more information.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
All right, folks, it's almost 8 o'clock, and if we are finished, we don't have to ask for extension. Any other questions from the floor? Did I just guide us to say, let's not get to 8 o'clock? I did. Which I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Student trustee Trivedi and student trustee. That's such a great opportunity. Because I think we're all going to support you in that. Okay. Make a note. We're making a note that you are. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please?
On behalf of our student trustee, moving to adjourn.
Thank you, Trustee Wasim. And do we have a seconder?
And I will second it on behalf of student trustee Trivedi.
I love this. Okay. All in favor? Any opposition? Then
I was voting on their behalf.
the motion is carried and the meeting is adjourned.
Well done.
But now,
Good job, everybody.